Hi, we're here in the outskirts of AppleFest per se, and I'm Jackson, and you are?
Lyman Fancy.
And what exactly do you have going on here?
Well, we have a little collection of Gordon Hall's old equipment, and I grew up in town and I worked on farms when I was a young fella, and I know a little bit of something about it. This Fordson tractor, 31 Ford Fordson, was my uncle Raymond Turner's there at one time, but Gordon Hall bought it later on, much later on, when my uncle was still living, but it was just stored away, and he got it all working. So that's one thing he got, and anything else. This wagon out in back was from the Civil War. Gordon bought it up in Maine somewhere, and it was used as a militia for ammunition, and it was at that time, and it looks in pretty good shape other than having floorboards on it, you know. So, and this here is a one-horse hay rake that they used years ago, and next to it is a number 9. It's a 2-horse mowing machine that mowed the hays around different farms here. And my grandfather used a one-horse, and it was probably a 5-foot cutter on it, and boy, he cut a lot of nice hay, real high hay. And,
Yeah, I bet.
but that's probably from Schultz's, I presume. And then he's got way over, he's got a 2-horse cultivator, and he's got a 1-horse cultivator, and a little bit of a carrot plow, I think it is, because it isn't too big of a plow. Paul Schultz, who go ahead and got some of this property from, he had 3 farms in North Reading. He grew a lot of carrots, and he grew down on Pleasant. That's where Pleasant Street was years ago when I was a kid. And my father painted that before I was born, and before they had electricity power from my mother and father's house. It was in the upstairs bedroom. But you can see the outhouse it was a 2-family right near Route 62. And there was an outhouse back for the other apartment that sits back more. But that was all ripped down around when I was in the service for the Korean War, and they put Pleasant Street in there and a lot of houses, but it was nice level land. And across the street, that White House, a fellow by the name of Ralph Littlefield lived there, and he went down, and there was a bridge across the river, and Linda Smith owns a lot of that property way over across the river now. So, what else do you want me to say?
Oh, that's all very fascinating. How old would you say all this equipment is?
Oh, this is a 1931 Fordson tractor. You'd have to crank it, and you'd start it on gas, and then you could switch it over to kerosene. But Gordon has got it running now. If he started, it would be just on gas. And this here in front is a cordwood cutter that my uncle would have guys cutting wood, and hardwood, and they'd cut it 4 foot long. Big logs would be split, and then if somebody wanted a cord of wood, hired man would measure off the proper distance, and then he'd put a stick there so they'd know when to stop, and then he'd keep passing them logs. And I was on the outside when I was 12 and younger, and I was always afraid of that saw coming off, you know, which a rig like this, it came off with a fellow over in Woburn and Wilmington, and it filleted him. So it's kind of a dangerous tool, but it's pretty good. It did a lot of work, but awful noisy, especially when you were running up. They'd use that belt and everything. They ran it up to fill in a silo with corn stalks, only they'd be much drier than those 3 that we got there. And that would fill the silo with silage, corn, chopped up corn. And Oh, that would screech a half a mile away. I can remember. Because you had to feed it. That was just supplying the power for this machine. That the corn stalks went in this trough, and they'd go into this machine that really chopped it up, and then they'd shoot it 30 feet in the air up in the top of the silo.
Wow.
And believe me, it made a lot of noise. But they did. That's the way you did things years ago.
Wow. So I hear that this little area right here is going to be made into a farm museum.
Well, this here, if it comes to pass, was on the north side of the Congregational Church. And years ago, when people just had horses and wagons and buggies to go to church, they'd park their horses in there and they'd go into church. And that was on the north side of the Congregational Church, which is across the street. And if it gets done, they'll probably reproduce some of that here. That's all I know.
Oh, that's great. Well, it was nice talking to you.
Oh, nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you.